Hey, what's up? This is Don and welcome to part 6 of our masterclass. Thank you for tuning in once again. We now want to start looking at some of the advanced modeling tools which you can access by right-clicking anywhere. And there's this long list of all these operations you can do. Because there's so many here, what I'm going to try and do is keep it as relevant to the tutorial as possible. So we will not be looking at every single thing, but just also as a way of making this tutorial as comprehensive as possible. I would take every chance to showcase some tools which may not be, completely relevant, but still just good technical knowledge. And that's something which hopefully you've spotted as a pattern so far in this series. Anyway, on the left side over here, this is something we briefly looked at the end of the previous tutorial. There's 3 different modes. We have point mode, which allows you to individually select the points which make up your geometry, and then you can do transformations to this and so on. You have edge mode, which deals with individual edges, and polygon mode, which deals with these faces or polygons, as the name suggests. Let's start by going to point mode, and what we want to do here is clean up these edges. There are a lot of redundant points here that we don't need at all. So, for example, on the V here, pretty much all these straight lines, you only need the points on the corners, and that's it. The reason we have these points, if you recall, was because of the interpolation we put on the splines, which gave us this distribution of points. That was necessary to get a decent amount of points for the curved sections, with the undesired effect of, it also placed some points on parts where we don't really need them. But it's no problem. We can just go through this one by one and just select all these points. And I'm just holding Shift here to make this selection. And I can press Delete to remove all the points that I do not need. There's more we can remove here. Basically any straight edge. So that's the basic cleanup, but we want to take this even further and clean up the curved areas too. If I go to the front view, we have the original spline here in this extrude object. I'm just going to drag this out. I'm going to go to the basic tab, and under use color, I want to set this to on, and let's have maybe a green color. So when I go back to the extrude over here and zoom in a little closer, let's say I remove this point over here, I can see the green spline underneath, which should continue to serve as a guide. When I remove points like this, I can continue to just reposition other points to maintain the shape, because each time you remove a point, you lose some resolution. So you have to readjust some other areas to make sure that you maintain your shape. It doesn't have to follow the guide that perfectly, but you do need to do a little bit of a cleanup. It's really just sort of close to the edges where we have some problems. So let me just go in here. As you can see, nice and simple. Just going all the way around, and I think that could be it. Let's go ahead and now do those adjustments to these sharp corners that I talked about before. If we look back to the preview, you can see these edges. It's not just a sharp corner. I'm doing this from memory. I think it's this edge over here. And then there's 2 down here. I think the top section of this and the lower section over here, and the corners at the top over there. And this is all being done in point mode. I'm gonna right click and go to bevel, and if I just click and drag to the left, you can now see the bevel taking place. I'm only gonna set this to 10, and I think that should be the correct number. let's quickly go back to the preview, and I think I missed a section, which is this little bit here. So if I just select this, I can right click and bevel and just hit 10 again on the offset, just hit apply. And if I zoom in here, we have a point which is really close to that corner there, so we can remove one of these, and it's not going to make a difference. And that's primarily the main reason we did that cleanup of those points close to the edges, because if this bevel were, for example, longer, it would start to intersect with the next point, and then you end up with a weird line like this. So make sure you have cleaned this up sufficiently before you move on. Let's delete that point again. And I think that should be it. Maybe over here too. Let's take a look on the inside this time. So it's this corner here. Right click and bevel. Still set to 10. Just click New Transform, and there we go. And again, we just need to remove this point, and that's looking quite good there. I think I want to make the gap in between these sections here smaller. I think it's too much right now. If I go back to the preview, I can tell that all these shapes were a little bit closer to each other than I am looking at right now. Quick way to do this without redrawing everything is go to Edge Mode, select everything, then right click, and we're going to Extrude. And if I just hold left mouse click and go outward, you can see that edge boundary just growing like that. Now, I don't want to grow this too much, maybe literally by 1 unit. So I'll just hit enter, and that's it. Very, very simple. Now we'll have this double border effect happening because of that new extrude we just added. We can remove that effect because we don't want it actually by going back to Edge Mode and then press U and L to get loop selection. Then select the loops on the inside and at the top as well. We can just right click, and now we're starting to go into those and get this tool called Dissolve, and that's just going to make that extra loop disappear. A little bit of a problem. It's not a big deal, but my shape has now deviated from the guide quite significantly, as you can see here. So perhaps you could wait to do that border expansion tool later, but I think you can also just make another copy of this guide. Let's hide the first one, go back to point mode, and let's just create an outline on this and apply roughly the same offset. So if I create outline, put a distance of 1 unit and hit apply, that's now going to be the same width as our new geometry. And it's just a visual aid to keep everything in line and not deviate from the original shape too much. It's probably not too necessary, but I like to keep it anyway, just in case. I'm going to disable it though for now, just to keep my work area clean. And let's go to point mode and work on another aspect of this. Currently, all these shapes are what we call n-gons. This is something we talked about previously. Any shape which has more than 4 sides is called an n-gon. And generally speaking, when you are working in 3D, you never want to have a shape which has more than 4 sides. You always want to keep everything as what we call quads, which are 4-sided shapes. So we need to break this up to achieve that effect. If I press M followed by K, I can get the knife tool, or right click and knife. And we need to start cutting this up. And the way we do this is very simple. Just click on one of the points, get this little handle or line, and just connect it to another point. So we've broken this up into 2 pieces. We can do the same down here, and we can have triangles. Actually, triangles are not the end of the world. Well-placed triangles can work very well with quads. If you don't like having a triangle here, you could perhaps go back to live selection, select that little point, right click, and you could bevel this. And as you do that, it splits this into 2 quads. So you have the quad down here and this quad at the top. But what's happening now is the shape of the V is changing quite significantly. So maybe we could go back to our selection again, select these 2 points here, right click, and let's weld. And we're gonna weld everything to the middle here. Let's go back to selection, and I'm pressing spacebar here to switch to live selection and the previous tool. Anytime you switch tools, you can press space to cycle the last 2 tools that you used. So currently I'm switching between selection and weld. So let's get these 2 points and let's just weld them to the center again. And now we have a quad here, and we could continue drawing the quads to the rest of the logo. But I think the triangle we had originally is probably the best idea in this case, just because I want to keep my original shape. Let me get the knife tool again, and let's just continue drawing this. And then just to finish the V off, we need to split this 5-sided shape into a quad, and that's going to be just making a cut like this. And same thing over here. And there you go. So now the V is made up of this 4-sided segments and this 1 triangle down here. We could just split this across like this, and now we have 2 quads, but I think I want to try and follow the edges. So keep this edge parallel to this one, and then make another edge over here, which is parallel to this edge. So now it's made up of 3 quads, and we're maintaining a nice edge direction and edge flow. Let's go to the slightly more trickier sections here. It's very easy dealing with straight-sided shapes. When you start dealing with curves, you may have to move in a little closer and be more careful. So I think I'm going to start in this corner. Let's join it up to this segment. I like to work from 2 different directions and just sort of meet in the middle. Let's join this up to the opposite point and over here. Now this point over here has no direct other point opposite to connect to, so we kind of have to cut in between, and then we will just remove these 2 other points, and we'll end up with something like this. But I think in this particular case, I'm going to do this the opposite direction. So I'm going to take these 2 points and hook them to the other side like this, and just delete. And now this whole shape is made up of quads. Let me bring back my guide outline here. I'm going to go to modeling mode, and under the object tab, let's lower the maximum length to say something like 1. So this is nice and curved. If I solo this by itself, you can see what I'm talking about. And the reason I'm doing this is because I think our polygon here needs to be aligned a little bit better to the guide. So let's just selecting points and moving them to the right places. And we can move this up. Let's move this back in, maybe a little bit to the top. Just trying to conform to the original boundary a little bit better here. And I think that's quite close. This line, I think, could be moved a little bit this way to have a more similar orientation as the other lines. You can see the orientation gradually straightens out as we get closer to the top, following the direction of the curve, and that's what we want to do. And one last adjustment down here, and There we go. I think this could be moved up even further. I think that section is okay for now. Very nicely divided, and these cuts we added follow that curve very nicely. Let's move over to the other side. I'm going to get my knife tool once again, and let me just solo this by itself. We don't need to see that green edge right now. To kick things off, you can clearly see this point has nothing to attach to across here. That's fine. We can just make a straight cut and come back to it later. And let's attach this to this corner and just work our way up. So something like this initially, and then we can fix up some areas. So this point here, which didn't have anywhere to attach, we can give it somewhere to attach to. And then I don't think I need any more sections up here. I can just delete these two stray points. Let's unsolo so we can see the guide under here. And we just want to pick some of these and move them to the right places. Very good all the way down here. I think I could probably remove this point and then move this one further down without losing too much of the shape there. And perhaps I have to move this one a little bit closer to the end. I might have added another segment here just to follow the curve better, but I think that works. Let's go all the way back up to the top. I'm going to select these 2 points and just move up. And then move this up here too. And that's it. Some really good edges here. Very equally spaced segments, and this is what you want to try and achieve. Not only is this a technical advantage, cleaning up your geometry like this, but it's also just better to look at when everything is ordered and spaced out correctly, like we've just done over here. Just one final adjustment, and then the final section is going to be at the top here. So let's go there. Press M followed by K for the knife. Let's solo this. By the way, I've been using this solo plugin without referencing what this is all about. I think the solo feature is something which is now built into Cinema 4D release 16, which is the latest release. But if you are using lower versions like I am, I'm using version 15, you might not have this tool. You will have to download the Magic Solo plugin by Nitroman. And if you just Google Magic Solo for Cinema 4D, you'll find it. It's very easy to use, and it's very useful when you're dealing with multiple objects in your scene. You can isolate one section, work on it, and then bring everything back again when you are finished. So let's just go back to this, and let's start in the middle and then go to the right, and we can sort of work our way to the outside. Over here, let's hook this up down here, and let's do the same to the other side. This is mirrored pretty much, so we're basically doing the same thing on the opposite side, and we want to hook these points to an empty area down here, and the same over here too. And I think those other points can probably be removed without any problems. Let's unsolo to see our guide, and let's start to correct some things. Just minor adjustments when you look at them individually, but when you look at the whole thing, it all adds up to give you a very nice result. I think this here can be pulled to the left, and since this section is the same as over here, I could select these 2 points, press T for scale, and just make them smaller like this, and then press space to go back to the previous tool, which was selection, and move this up. And now we're sort of adjusting 2 sides at the same time because they are pretty much the same. And I think that is it. that is how you clean up your geometry. And that should give you a nice jumping point to the next section, where we'll continue looking at the advanced modeling tools, continue building the logo, and give it some depth.